Good morning. This is another series of the Key Learning Program, a feature program of Autism Hangout. And with me today is Lisa King. And I'm going to let Lisa King tell you a bit about herself. But first, she specializes in helping parents and kids on the spectrum with the college experience. So Lisa, I just heard a marvelous presentation.
Thank you.
And I know there's a lot of things for people with autism to consider when they're going to college, but before we get right down to that, can you give me, again, in like 30 seconds, a little bit about your background and what was your first introduction to autism?
Sure. I taught in the public school system in Virginia for 10 years, and I worked with students with learning disabilities, emotional disturbance, and I was also an art educator. And decided from that experience that I wanted to move on into post-secondary education, went for a master's degree in disability studies and special education, and came to Minnesota and began working at Augsburg as a disability specialist. And it wasn't long before I met my first student on the spectrum. I was to do an intake meeting with a family with a young woman who had been admitted to Augsburg College. My director couldn't be there for the intake that day and asked me to do it, and I had never heard the word Asperger's, did not know even that it was associated with autism, and I was scared to death. And I met this young woman who was admitted to the college, full ride, knew 4 languages fluently, self-taught. Did not need disability services, but after a couple of weeks came back and asked for some assistance with the social competence. And it was that experience of seeing the disparity between somebody with such cognitive and academic potential and the disconnect between that and her social competence that really intrigued me and got me interested in working with students on the spectrum. Since that time, I have piloted a program at the U of M where we worked with a different model of service for students in college with Asperger's and high-functioning autism, and since that time have now gone into independent consulting. So I continue to work with students who are at local colleges here, and again some across the country by way of Skype or iChat. And I serve sort of as a liaison to the student and their disability specialists or to the family, and we work pretty consistently on time management, organization, executive function kind of
Yeah, I was just going to say, in hearing your presentation, you've done a great deal of hands-on research and understanding not only the personality or the strengths or the weaknesses of somebody with, say for instance, Asperger's that's going to college, but you have found ways to be able to advise these students and advise parents as to how these people can succeed in a college experience, which basically is being able to finish and get a degree. If I were to ask you what would be your 3 key learnings from all your extensive experience, that again, this is a 5-minute series, so I'm trying to give people as much of a background into your knowledge as I can. And by the way, folks, if you haven't seen these things before, there will be references listed at the end, so you can go get more information on Lisa and some of her speeches and how to contact her. But if I were to ask you, what were the 3 key learnings that you would tell these people today, what might they be?
Whew, probably have 10, but I think top of my list is for this particular group of students, they may be very, very bright and high functioning, but if you can't get up in the morning by yourself and wear a clean uniform and get to work on time, it's not going to work.
Okay, so
you could be admitted to Yale, but if you don't have life skills and independence, then nothing's going to work.
Yeah, you talked extensively about executive processing. So the first order of business is being able to be accountable and responsible for yourself.
Absolutely.
So that would be 1. What might be number 2?
Well, in conjunction with that, learning how to do that has to start at home. It can't wait till the student is at a college and is picking that up from other roommates or so forth. If they're not doing it at home, it won't happen at college. So at whatever age your child is at right now, my best advice is to start creating that accountability. Checklists for chores, upping the ante a little bit as far as being a participant in the home, not just focusing on their special interest and their strength.
Okay, and one other key piece of advice I heard you mention is that if you resolve some of these issues early on, you will not experience the crash or some of the devastation that happens, because many parents or even some of the educators in a high school experience may be thinking, oh, this person has the ability, they'll do fine in college. But it gets back to executive processing, and if you understand some of these key things to begin with, the student won't crash after 4 to 6 weeks, and then you have the mess to clean up afterwards. So I guess I'm speaking for you, but that third point might be well prepared means success.
Mm-hmm. And one other point I'll add too, and that is that many of our students have a special interest. And I would pay particular attention to finding a way that that student can still focus on the special interest, but finding a way that somebody's going to pay them to do that in the future as well. They don't have to divorce themselves from the special interest when they go to college, but it has to be something that can turn into a viable job, because these folks have the capacity to be putting into the Social Security system in the future, not being dependent on it.
Excellent. Okay, if people wanted more information on you, where should they go to learn more information about you?
The quickest way would be to go to my website. It is www.collegeautismspectrum.com.
Okay. All right. Will there be presentations there or information on pretty much just what I've just seen, which was your lecture here at the Answer Series?
We will be putting that presentation up on the site. There are also links to how to contact me. We're adding to the site as we go, so right now we have contact information, services, the kind of work that I do and where I do it. So that would be the first place to go.
Very good. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.
And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being a part of Autism Hangout.